Final update. My parents allowed my jobless brother and his family to move in, and suddenly I was expected to cook, clean, and babysit. When I refused, my mom snapped, "You're so ungrateful, you have no responsibilities." I packed my bags that night and left without a word. Weeks later, they called, begging because the grocery money had run out. I replied, "Guess it's time for your favorite to step up." Part 2. Some digging turned out that Kay had convinced my parents to take out a home equity loan to invest in a business idea. The money was gone, the business never existed, and now they were about to lose the house. My parents were desperate, and I was about to watch everything crash down around them. After I found out about the foreclosure, I just sat there staring at my phone. I felt nothing, no anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Kyle had finally done it, he had bled them dry, and now they wanted me to save them. The desperate plea came 3 days after the foreclosure news. My mother called, and I let it go. Then she called again and again. Finally, she left a voicemail, "Please, honey, just come home. We need to talk." I almost deleted it, but then another voicemail came in. "We might have to move out. We don't have anywhere to go." That made me pause. Wait, they didn't have anywhere to go? What happened to Kyle's backup plans, the business investments, the genius schemes? I needed to know. So, against my better judgment, I texted my dad, "Where's Kyle?" "Dad, he left." I blinked. He what? Kyle's great escape turned out to be that the moment he realized the house was actually getting foreclosed, he vanished. He and Stephanie packed their stuff in the middle of the night. They didn't tell my parents, and they didn't take the kids. Yes, you read that right, Kyle and Stephanie ditched their 3 kids and ran. The new nightmare was that my mom's voicemail made sense now. She wasn't calling me because she missed me, she was calling me because they had 3 abandoned kids and no money. They wanted me to fix it. I sat in my apartment staring at the ceiling. This was not my problem. The unexpected visit happened one afternoon when there was a knock at my door. I checked the peephole, it was a cop. I hesitated before opening the door. "Ma'am," he said, "are you the sister of Kyle?" I swallowed. "Yeah, why?" His face was unreadable. "Your brother's kids were left at a police station." Holy. The abandonment was real. Kyle and Stephanie had dropped their kids off at a police station like they were unwanted puppies. No warning, no explanation, they were just gone. The oldest, an 8-year-old boy, had told the officers that his mom said she'd be back, but she never came. I felt sick. Now the kids were wards of the state. My parents had been contacted, but without a house or money, they couldn't take them in. And now the state was asking me. I was stuck. The impossible decision was that I had 2 options: take in 3 traumatized kids and upend my life, or let them go into the foster system. First of all, I had 24 hours to decide. I sat there, my stomach twisting. Kyle had run off like a coward. My parents had enabled him for years, and now they all wanted me to clean up the mess. The breaking point was that I had 24 hours to decide what to do with my brother's abandoned kids. I didn't sleep that night. I kept picturing their faces, the oldest boy sitting in a cold, unfamiliar room, waiting for parents who weren't coming back, the 2 younger ones confused and scared. This wasn't their fault, but it wasn't mine either. By morning, I had made my decision. The confrontation came before I called the caseworker. I had one last thing to do. I drove straight to my parents' house, or what was left of it. The eviction notice was on the door, the blinds were drawn, and the yard was a mess. I knocked, but there was no answer. I knocked again, harder, and then the door swung open. My mom stood there, looking like a ghost of herself, dark circles under her eyes, hair unbrushed, still wearing pajamas at noon. "Are you happy now?" she asked, her voice hoarse. I stepped inside. The house was bare, stripped down to whatever furniture they hadn't sold. I turned to my dad, sitting in his recliner like a man who had given up on life. But I wasn't here for them, I was here to end this. I threw a stack of papers onto the table, a police report, a foreclosure notice, a list of shelters, and a letter from Child Protective Services. "Read it," I said. My dad didn't even move. My mom's hands shook as she picked up the letter, and then she started crying. "Kyle did this," I said coldly. "Kyle and your blind loyalty to him." She shook her head. "It wasn't," she said. "Yes, it was," I replied. I slammed my hand on the table. "You let him bleed you dry. You let him ruin your home. You let him abandon his own kids, and now you want me to fix it?" Neither of them spoke, so I twisted the knife. "I got a call from CPS," I continued. "They asked if I would take the kids." My mom's breath hitched. You have to. You can't let them go to strangers." I repeated, "Left to strangers? You mean like the strangers you let raise me while you cuddled Kyle?" That shut her up. I turned to my dad. "Say something." He stared at the floor. "Coward," I shook my head. My body was trembling with rage. "You know what I did decide?" I said finally. "I decided that I'm done with all of this." My mom's face crumpled. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I'm not taking the kids." Her mouth fell open. "But I will help find them a stable foster home, one where they'll be fed and safe, one where they won't grow up thinking Kyle's behavior is normal." My mom covered her mouth, sobbing. "And you," I looked between them, "you're going to lie in the bed you made." I turned to leave, and then my mom screamed, "You're just like him." I stopped in my tracks. "You're just like Kyle," she choked out, tears streaming. "Leaving your family behind when we need you the most." I turned slowly, stepping right up to her. "No, Mom," I said softly. "I'm nothing like Kyle because I work, I pay my bills, and I never once stole from you." Then I walked out and never looked back. I followed through on my promise. I worked with the caseworker to find the kids a foster home with a kind couple who had experience with abandoned children. I left no forwarding address for my parents. I blocked Kyle's number when he finally tried to call. And my parents, they bounced from motel to motel before finally moving into a low-income senior apartment. Kyle and Stephanie were never heard from again. Reflection and closure, sometimes I wonder if I should have taken the kids in. They were innocent, they didn't deserve this. But neither did I for the first time in my life. I wasn't carrying someone else's burden. I wasn't the responsible one cleaning up other people's messes. I was free, and that was worth everything.